my opinion on disclosure, it's going to happen, and it's not going to come through the U.S. government.
Welcome, everyone, to We Are Not Alone, streaming here on Queen City News Plus. I'm your host, May K. Beeler. I'm the Chief Transportation Correspondent here at Queen City News. I'm also a longtime pilot. I have flown 40 years and counting, 30 different makes and models of aircraft. So I've flown pretty much in my piloting career all over the country, been a lot of places, but one place I have not been to, Roswell, New Mexico. So I've always wondered what really happened in 1947. Well, today we have a special guest who's going to tell us all about that. So if you bought into the fact that, is it a fact that we were visited by aliens in a crashed spaceship, or was there a government cover-up? Was there a high-altitude balloon that broke apart and there's debris all over? Christopher Johnston, an attorney, a well-known trial attorney, joins us today to tell us all about that. Christopher, I want to welcome you in. Thank you so much for joining us today.
So much for having me.
So I want to talk a little bit about your background first, Christopher, because it's pretty impressive. Contributing member of MUFON, the largest, most prestigious UFO research organization in the world, founding member of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. You'll have to tell us a little bit about that. A renowned trial attorney, a background in astrobiology and space law, and a lifetime ufologist. Chris, how did you get interested in UFOs or UAPs?
Well, sure. Yep. UAP is the proper vernacular these days. I have said some kids were able to bond with their dad through sports, some through fishing. My dad was a little bit different, a little bit out there, and I was born in '69, so growing up in the '70s, it was UFOs, sci-fi, and if I wanted a minute of my dad's time, that was going to be my chosen hobby. So that's what kickstarted it.
All right. Before we talk about Roswell, because you are an expert, you've written a book about this. We'll talk about the book later. Just want to get more into your background.
Sure.
Have you ever had a UFO encounter?
I can't say that I've ever had an encounter. I had a sort of a curious missing time incident, but in missing time, it was missing. I don't know what happened. This was back in 1991. I was at a location with a friend. We had people vouch they saw us leave at 9 p.m. We had a roommate who vouched that we got home at 3 a.m., and neither this friend of mine or myself has any recall in that 6-hour window. So I can't say what it was because I don't know, but.
Well, let me ask you this. Was there alcohol involved?
And that is a good question. And there's a little bit of a funny story about it because in 91, that would have made me, 22. And I was a brand new manager in my career at that time. And I had just read a management book on how to, function at employee functions. And it said, always show up, have one drink, and then leave. So you've made your appearance and all, and I was a young up and coming, and I had one beer because I had read that book. So alcohol was involved to the extent that I had a beer when that happened.
Okay. So let's get to Roswell. All right. What started your fascination with Roswell? How long ago was this? I want to hear everything you've learned about it that maybe is different from what we all know. Maybe what the most common misconceptions are about that. Were we lied to? Is there a cover-up? Are there aliens? But first, how did you get interested in Roswell?
Well, Roswell has really, and this answer, May-Cake, ties a little bit into your question. Roswell has not always been this cultural, touchstone that it is now. It, as you said, it occurred in 1947. And what I am willing to say, and when we get into the book a little more, maybe that'll make more sense. Something crashed in 1947. It really wasn't until the 70s when a ufologist and researcher by the name of Stanton Friedman went out and interviewed one of the first big names in this deal, which is Major Jesse Marcel. And it was after Stanton's first interview that Roswell really exploded. So one of the misconceptions is that, well, since day one, since July of 47, this has been a going concern. So not really. It wasn't until that picture that you're showing of that's Major Jesse Marcel holding some of the material at issue. So I got interested in it. As I said, I hit it just at the right time because when Roswell got popularized was truly in the 70s. And that's really when I was in my beginning stages of cutting my teeth on some of this UFO stuff. And it's remained, since the 70s, it has become the talking point, really. I mean, there's a lot of cases out there, but in the realm of UAPs, UFOs, Roswell is really the ticket. And one of the reasons I selected Roswell for my book, well, truth be told, there's a ton of material out there on it, and now a lot of the material, unfortunately, came to light after the 70s. So you're dealing with, 30 plus years later and evidence coming in. And so being a trial lawyer and some of the interest with how the evidence is or doesn't exist is what led to the book itself.
How long did you work on the book, and where did you get the information for the book?
Great question. The book itself was about a year beginning to end. And one important thing I think about the book is for the viewers, the entire book is written from the perspective. If you have the book in your hand, you're a potential juror, starting right from the jury selection process, being addressed by the clerk of court. I tried to give somewhat of an educational bent on trial work in addition to UFOs, which, yes, is kind of a weird marriage there. But so readers, when they read the book, if nothing else, will come away with, I think, some good insight into trial work, how cases are built, and that sort of thing. And then complete disclosure, I lost the original nut of your question there.
Okay, don't worry about it, because you know what I'm curious about? I don't want to know too much about the trial part. I want to know the meat. What did you find out about this? What should we know? Before that, let me just ask you, do you believe in UFOs?
I do, yes.
What do you think they are?
That I don't know. I believe it's something. They're not from Earth. It's some extraterrestrial technology. Beyond that, boy, anybody's guess is really as good as anybody else's, unless they're the ones, sitting on, biologics or anything else that's been recovered over the years. So I don't know. I don't know what they are, and isn't that the fascination? I mean, if we knew, we probably wouldn't be talking. So I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
So going back to 1947, what do you think happened?
I think, personally, based on my research, I believe extraterrestrial craft of some nature crashed. We do know, I tried to stay fairly fact specific, and I believe the facts establish something crashed, right? And then the great divide becomes, well, what was it? Do we go UFO and cover up, or do we go weather balloon? And so, and I'm not prepared to say, I even took kind of the approach of just providing the information and letting the readers decide, because again, it's one of the purposes is to try to realize not all evidence is created the same. Let's look at bias. Let's look at credibility. Let's look at all those different things. And that ties in, into another issue with some of the misconceptions about it.
Okay,
is that
hold that thought,
sure,
because I want to hear about these misconceptions. We got to take a quick break, and
sure,
we will be back right after this. So stay with us here on We Are Not Alone on Queen City News Plus. Stay right there. All right, Christopher, what are the misconceptions?
Well, the misconceptions. One, as I addressed already, that this has been one nice clean narrative from 1947 till now. No, we had that big gap really until about the 70s. Uh, in it's interesting, the misconceptions, there's big ones on both sides. One, for the people who tend to be true believers, there's this misconception, I believe, something crashed and there were alien bodies. Well, the alien body issue did not even come to light until into the 90s.
Hmm.
There was a gentleman, Walter Haut, who was the information officer on base, and he executed an affidavit in I want to, boy, I've got my dates up, but he executed an affidavit that say 1990, in which he said, I saw this and I saw that and I saw some various things. It wasn't until his second affidavit, which was several years later, pops up. Oh, and by the way, I saw somebody, and there you go, the original teletype. I saw some bodies. So if you try to follow the evidence, things didn't necessarily pop up on day one. And so again, then part of my purpose is, okay, well, is that credible? Is that relevant? Is there bias involved in that kind of thing? So I think the biggest misconception, either side you're on, is that it has been this clean, direct narrative since 47 to now.
Do you think there's a government cover-up?
Personally, I do. Now, I have to pivot back. What is being covered up? That I can't say for sure. Do I think something is being covered up? Yes, I do.
You want to guess? If pretend you know.
If I knew, I would be saying that it was an extraterrestrial craft that crashed, sans any extraterrestrial bodies, and those materials that they found, that Mac Brazel found in Roswell. He was the first gentleman to find any of it. Those materials were eventually taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where things have been. I'm part of the re-engineering camp. I believe that occurs if and when we have any materials. And I think that stuff ended up at Wright-Pat.
You know, you've got a very impressive background. Lifelong ufologist, yes, we talked about that, but you have a background in astrobiology and space law. You are a renowned trial attorney. Do people think you're crazy when they find out you wrote this book about Roswell? I mean, what are you talking about? Is that professional? How do you deal with the stigma of that?
Well, first, partly personality. Stigma doesn't bother me. I'm a personal injury trial lawyer, so you get pretty thick skin pretty fast. And unprofessional, no. And in fact, if I have any kind of reputation out there in the community, the number of phone calls that I get from other lawyers who will tell me, hey, Chris, I got this thing, and they run the fact pattern past me, and they can't see what we call a theory of liability. Okay, it's tied in. You have to be creative. You can't just look at these cases, be it a semi-truck case or a UFO crashing case. You can't just look at it in a vacuum. And I think you want an attorney who is creative, who can look at these from different angles in different ways and go, well, this might not work, but this might work. And boy, by wanting to prove any creativity, I think a Roswell book, does it. And I also had, I've done this. I'm coming up on my 25th year of practice, and I'll hear it from time to time. Oh, the lawyers only want the easy cases. They only want the cases they'll be sure to get paid on. I disagree with that across the board for my own practice. But for something like, taking it personally, well, I'm a lawyer that's willing to take on the Roswell mystery. So if you're looking for a guy who just, wants the easy case, I am not that guy. So it doesn't bother me. And in fact, all the reception I've got, from current clients, past clients, has been really, really positive.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
In researching this book, some people think, oh, Roswell, woo. Has it changed your life?
No. No, it hasn't changed my life. And that could be the approach that I took to it. The You had asked earlier, and I'm sorry I didn't address it. Where did I get my information? And that's important for everyone to know. In the book, the narrative of the story of the Roswell incident is told via the testimony of the various witnesses that I chose to call in the book. And the testimony that I included, right, wrong, bad, ugly, what have you, I didn't make any testimony up. I made up some of the questioning, of course, to make the answers work. But I drew all of the testimony from previous interviews the witness had given, previous affidavits they had executed. So I tried my darndest to really use, hey, this is what these folks said. Take it, don't take it, what have you. But so I drew it mostly from past interviews that they had given to try to, again, keep it as factual as possible.
So let me ask you, is there one testimony that really stands out? I mean, we need to read the book, but I'm just curious, is there a testimony that stands out to you that was just, wow?
There is, and one thing that gets lost in trial books like mine, what we as lawyers like to say is, well, how'd your trial go? The testimony didn't come in like I had hoped. It sort of means you have this belief on how it's going to be presented. And a big part of that is, whether we like it or not, well, is this witness, can they kind of rub two sticks together? Do they sound like they know what they're talking about? Do they appear that they know what they're talking about? And you lose that element in a book, really. But that said, and I had mentioned his name previously, I think the most compelling, best witness for the believers is Mac Brazel. Mr. Brazel is the one who first found any of the debris. He was a simple rancher. He had no axe to grind. He wasn't known as the local crazy person. He was simply doing his job and found some debris that was unexplainable to him. So you take someone like that, and his testimony from day one was always consistent. I think he's a very good, very strong, compelling witness for the believers. And I should mention it in my book, typically in a civil trial, you have the plaintiffs and the defendants. I split it. I went with believers and skeptics to make it a little bit easier and to flow a little bit better. So Mac Brazel would be a great witness for the believers. And then the flip side, General Ramey, you can't read about Roswell without General Ramey. General Ramey was the one ultimately who had the retraction issued. So you have that first came out, there was a disc, and then there was a retraction. And that was General Ramey. And General Ramey would really bring to the table some of those things that I said. You can picture him up there in his military uniform. The guy was a general, for Pete's sake. Big job, big important guy. And he owned he straight up, when asked about, well, you initially said that it was a disc, he owned it and simply, yep, and it was a mistake, and tried to move on from it there. Do you want to break it down a little more? Then you have to ask, well, as credible as General Ramey would be, would he really make that kind of mistake? So, there's the two sides to everything, but I think General Ramey would be a very strong, very credible witness for the skeptics.
Okay, Chris, we're going to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk about the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. I want to talk about, do you think there's a cover-up now? Do you think the President of the United States knows something we don't know? What do you think of all these hearings going on right now? There's a change. The world is experiencing a change. Is disclosure coming? Hold those thoughts. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back right after this. Okay, we're back. Thank you for staying with us here on We Are Not Alone. Christopher Johnston joins us, author and trial attorney, expert on Roswell. All right, we're going to move from 1947 to present day. And let's just talk briefly about the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. You are a founding member of that. Tell us about that.
In short, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, it's two pockets of people. You have what they call creatives in Hollywood. So you'd be your actor, artsy types, and the other side is more the researcher bent of it. So more my side of it. And they're working to really try to get some continuity between the two. May Kay goes and makes her movie and it's this outlandish, hey, this is what's going on. And then Chris makes his movie and it's the opposite. So it's a hope and an attempt to get some continuity and try to really put together a more accurate picture of what's going on. Because, we all watch movies, we all see the craziness out there. And so at its core, that's what the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is.
Okay, now I need to ask you, you're with MUFON. So
Yes.
these folks believe in UFOs or UAPs or something. So that says to me that you believe in maybe more than you're letting on. So there's a change in the air. I don't know what it is, but we're in a very unstable time right now in this world. And there are people who say that there is a disclosure close at hand, that we've been lied to, that we have been in touch with ETs or aliens or terrestrials or angels or people from other planets or dimensions since the Old Testament. I mean, for thousands of years, and very soon somebody is going to come forth. Do you believe that there's like a secret society or there are officials within the government or some power that's hiding information that will perhaps disclose what's going on and let us know?
Whether that group exists or not, a bit above my pay grade. I can tell you my opinion on disclosure. It's going to happen, and it's not going to come through the U.S. government. I don't buy it. We're too tight-lipped. There's too much of a control issue. You look at some governments like Chile, they've made everything, well, as far as we know, everything that they have, everything they found, they've put it out there. And they're not the only one. So the United States, being the United States for whatever reason, I don't think they ever will disclose it. I don't think the president, I don't think any of the presidents truly know. We have to remember that president's a part-time job. And, if I was sitting on information like that, I was a lifer or a career military guy, why would the president need to know? And then you do get, I think there is probably more element of citizens. We hear about Robert Bigelow, for example, in his Arrow Works. Well, if Bigelow, for example, was sitting on a pile of debris from Roswell, well, good luck with your FOIA trying to get it from a private company. So I would imagine that this stuff is so structured and cordoned off that they probably could honestly answer, I don't have any. So they're not going to be telling you, it's Bigelow's got it over here. So I think disclosure, it's a matter of time. The source, I don't know, but I don't believe that it's going to be the U.S. government. My hope is that it's something that would come from, well, we had 1,000 crafts 100 feet over the ground flying from the East Coast to the West Coast, about 5 miles an hour. We all saw it, right? We don't need any kind of disclosure because we have it for ourselves. So that's the way I see it. How it's going to come, obviously, I don't know, but there are governments out there that appear to me to be much more willing to disclose things than ours.
We're going to wrap things up here in just a minute. Want to learn more about how people can get in touch with you. But do you think, since disclosure, is it eventually going to come? Do you think we need to be afraid?
No, I don't. I'm also of the belief, think about it. Let's take everything at face value, assume all the pro extraterrestrial stories were true. If they wanted to do something to us, about us, for us, one, there's absolutely nothing we could do about it. Right there. And two, why now? If they've, been around for thousands of years, what, makes 2025 so significant that the aliens just, well, we've had it. So I don't think there's anything to fear, and we don't control it anyway.
I like that. So this is a good place for us, I think, to end. So tell us about how we can get your book and how people can get in touch with you, Chris.
Sure. The book is available on Amazon. I recommend make it a little bit easier. My law firm website is Law Group of Iowa. UFOs.com. About halfway down the page, you see a big red button that says buy the Roswell book, and it'll take you right to the page. So that's easiest. And I can also be reached, obviously through the website as well. So it's a catch-all, lawgroupofiowa.com.
Christopher, thank you so much. This has been interesting. I don't know what to believe. I'm just learning everything. I have an open mind, and I just invite everyone to have an open mind. And thank you for telling us that we don't need to be afraid, because there are people out there who are kind of pushing the fear factor. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of our viewers for joining us today on We Are Not Alone, live streaming here on Queen City News Plus. I'm your host, May K. Beeler. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.